Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It's Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. Happy birthday, Mom. It's my mom's birthday.
Very nice.
It's also everyone in free agency's birthday as they get paid ungodly sums of money. Many people are changing teams. We're going to try to get to as many of them as possible here in the next 60 minutes, 40 of those minutes, which might include Denny Carter. He has betrayed us. He's leaving early. Kenneth Walker has betrayed the Seahawks. He's now a Kansas City Chief. Travis Etienne has betrayed the stuff fans talk about tonight when players leave their teams. Betrayal, traitor, hashtag TRADER. Travis Etienne is now a Saint. Mike Evans is now a 49er. Wan'Dale Robinson now a Titan. Michael Pittman Jr., who wasn't a free agent but got traded, is a Steeler. Malik Willis, a Dolphin. Tua Tagovailoa. All right, we're already out of good ones. Tua, Falcon. A former Falcon, Tyler Algier, a Cardinal. Rico Dowdle reuniting with Mike McCarthy in Pittsburgh. That's what Steelers fans were looking forward to when the offseason began. We're having an offseason of change. Surely that doesn't mean Mike McCarthy reuniting with Rico Dowdle. All that and much more if we have time. Kenneth Gainwell, Isaiah Likely, Rashid Shaheed. You get the picture. Denny, a lot of huge news.
Yeah.
A lot of big names.
Yeah.
That doesn't get, though, to the biggest story that everyone's talking about. I'm not even including TMZ's bombshell scoop that Donna Kelsey is remodeling her Orlando home.
Wow.
This is not a joke, by the way.
Wow.
This was reported as a big-time scoop by TMZ. You have an even bigger scoop.
Huge.
It's also Chiefs related as we are in day 2 of free agency. What is it?
All right. So, the Chiefs, they get back Travis Kelsey for another year. By the way, he said, I was never going to leave anyway.
All that month-long chatter about me maybe leaving was fake.
He was like, they knew I was going to come back. I told him.
This is helping my mom remodel her home.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have Kelsey back. Now they have Super Bowl MVP, one of the best running backs in recent history, Ken Walker, in the backfield. And, they're going to have Patrick Mahomes back from his knee injury in 2026. And we got actually a late breaking story here from ESPN's Peter Schrager, who said on TV today.
That's how you know it's true, by the way.
Yeah, no, this not a bit. He said, quote, Patrick Mahomes has that chip on his shoulder. He's hearing everything while he's rehabbing. So
Danny's like, does that include podcasts?
Does that include the Rotoworld Football Show? Because I may have called him Mid-Homes a few times on the show.
Hopefully that doesn't include podcasts.
But that was before the injury. So, I'm just being real with you here. No, look, he's doing that thing where he's elite athletes, all-time greats, they have to make up people, right? Doubters, haters, right? It's like Michael Jordan completely made up people.
And Michael Jordan literally, as he revealed himself, feuded with waiters.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Mahomes has created a person, maybe someone on sports radio calling it, Mahomes doesn't have it anymore. It's over for him. And no one's saying that, by the way. No, I've never heard one single person say, oh, he can't come back from this knee injury. He's going to come back. And obviously he's going to be better than he was before.
I think literally no one has said, yeah, he's not going to come back. Everyone's saying no one's going to come back easily and be totally fine. One reason he's going to be totally fine, guys, is because Kenneth Walker is now a Kansas City Chief. I was of the opinion the Chiefs, it's not like it's mission accomplished in this receiver core. They still have major issues. Rashee Rice, typical legal uncertainty, unbelievable player, cannot stay out of trouble. Xavier Worthy just not taking the next step through 2 years in the league. It's already been 2 years. Is that right? It almost sounded like fake news when I said that. They needed receiver help, but they needed running back help too. They just needed playmakers anywhere they could find them. Kyle Dvorchak. It's easier to do that at running back, which is a devalued position right now, even though the value has been increasing over the past few years. I did kind of suspect that if they were going to make a splash in free agency, it would probably be at running back instead of receiver because the economics of it just didn't really work for the Kansas City Chiefs. They needed anyone to be a new weapon. It's Kenneth Walker, 3 years, $43 million. How does this move the needle in a Chiefs backfield that hasn't had anyone moving the needle for half a decade now? Frankly, kind of inexcusable. Ever since the first Kareem Hunt era ended, they just had one replacement level back after another. They got away with it for a little bit. They have not been getting away with it the past 2 years. How does Kenneth Walker move the needle here? What's the true upside? And by the way, Denny's retconning that he's supported Kenneth Walker at the beginning of last year. Totally. You weren't as big of a hater as Kyle, right?
I just didn't get it. I didn't get he's like playing alongside like the worst.
You did. You actually did have some bemusement and bafflement at us. I do admit that. But
I think to Pat's point, it's not like Denny was like pounding the table.
Exactly. Yeah, he's trying to I was a huge supporter.
I love Ken Walker.
Just both Denny and I have gotten to take the stance of being, quote, huge supporters, just because we have the biggest hater on the planet to what is I'm looking at my left.
All right.
Neither of us, to be clear.
Listen, I have a newborn child. I'm a new man. I don't.
You think this has changed you? You think four children?
The first four did nothing. Yeah.
The fifth one was the magic.
The fifth has been life changing. But sorry, Kyle. Yeah. But so the reason Kenneth Walker was kind of held back in Seattle is because I think they think if he takes a full workload, he's kind of injury prone. Will we see something similar with the Chiefs? What is the upside? I think we kind of settled on he's a top 15 or 16 back. Could he sneak into the top 12? Give us your thoughts on Ken Walker to the Chiefs.
Yeah, as far as the injury prone stuff, I can't do another summer of this, guys. I can't do another summer of this. Last year was
get ready to do another summer of it. But yeah, you can.
Last year, the entire season was defined by, at least at running back, quite literally one player. If you drafted Christian McCaffrey, you boat race the rest of the league.
Yeah.
With the only other, I would say, truly season-defining player probably being JSN, who was not injury-related at all.
Ooh, don't forget some negative season-defining players like.
What can you do? Some of us thought that other players would see targets on the Seahawks, and we were wrong.
Thankfully, some of us who drafted Bucky everywhere also drafted JSN everywhere.
That made up for it.
So. And truly, you were, I don't want to say fine, right? But getting the big hits, getting truly the players that defined the season, of which last year I would say there's just particularly two. You could sort of have Puka in the mix. Jonathan Taylor was in the mix until the final month of the year. Then, of course, the offense fell apart. But it was Christian McCaffrey and JSN. McCaffrey, the greatest fantasy player to ever grace this earth, was going in the middle of the first round because he got injured one year. He's been so good for so long that we've done injury-prone McCaffrey cycles multiple times over. And if he's going at the 101 and you think there are other good 101s, you want to say he's old and injury-prone, and you want to split the difference and take someone else, that's fine. But there's no other McCaffrey. So I'm for really good players, I just can't do another summer of injury-prone stuff. With that being said, I think the second point you made, or at least you made it in the show sheet, about his lack of pass catching, the fact that I think the probably more poignant thing that Seattle saw in his game that limited his overall snaps was just not a good, efficient receiver, and he is widely known as not particularly good in pass pro. I do think that is truly what will be most likely the difference between him being the RB14 and the RB567. He could potentially make it up in the way guys like Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb have made it up, where they're just the most efficient home run hitter in the NFL. This is something that I think Sean Siegel has written about. When you look at a player's expected fantasy points, almost no one, maybe McCaffrey gets there. No one finishes as the RB1 overall, just barely purely based on their expected fantasy points. You have to overperform your role.
You need some fake points mixed in there. Yeah.
Well, no, these are the real points. These are the ones where anyone can get a bunch of touches. Only certain players can do awesome things with a bunch of touches. The easiest way to outperform your expected fantasy points, it's a 50-yard touchdown at the 50-yard line. A 1st and 10 carry at the 50-yard line from a fantasy perspective, not all that useful. For someone like Ken Walker on a team that has the most dangerous quarterback in the NFL, that can be a very useful carry if he house calls it. And that's what guys like Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb made a living on. Of course, they got a lot of carries, but they can never hold a candle to 3 down backs in terms of just expected points. But in reality, the actual points they scored was they were so God-gifted good at running between the tackles that they made up for that and then some. And I think maybe that's Ken Walker's ability to jump into the top 6 or so, the top half of the RB1, is he has space now to work where he just keeps hitting these home runs, and he does it on a team that just paid him an insane amount of money that would suggest to me they think he can handle all of the between the tackles work. I still don't think he'll catch a ton of passes, but if they just give him all of their between the tackles work and the offense improves under, maybe obviously under a new OC, improves with a good run game, that feeds into the pass game, that feeds back into the running game. They get back to a top 5 offense instead of a top 16, quite literally barely above average for the past 2 years. I think there are thin but viable paths to him finishing as a top half RB1. Do I think that actually happens? I'm skeptical. I'm probably still going to end up being a hater. I'll be less vocal about it. I'm probably still going to end up being a hater this summer.
Well, Denny, he painted a bull case there. I know your bull case was even buller. I believe I saw a graphic that you said maybe top 3.
Yeah, it's bull something, all right.
I know he's not catching passes. Someone else is going to have the Jerick McKinnon role. Some people are even calling it the Brashard Smith role. As we know, Patty O. Mahomes really likes to throw in the red zone. In theory, I would like to think he has 15 touchdown upside. I don't really see it. Why do you see maybe top 3 upside for Mr. Kenneth Walker III in Kansas City?
Touchdowns, good offensive environment, decent
he was
line.
Just in a great Super Bowl winning offensive environment. Could it really be that better of an offensive environment in Kansas City?
I don't care about Super Bowl winning stuff. I mean, especially because they saw it fit to have Zach Charbonnet function as the lead back for a lot.
Because he's better, but it's fine.
Just to put some numbers to like the explosiveness aspect. So last year, Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, bottom 10, both of them in the rate of explosive runs, meaning more than 15 yards or at least 15 yards. You look at Walker's, and it was 8% of his rushes went for over 15 yards. That was the 4th highest rate, behind Devon Achane, Keaton Mitchell, and Amari DiMercato for some reason. So I'm kind of banking, I guess, on the good side of variance hitting for Ken Walker in this offense. I don't know if this is like a long-term arrangement that can work, where he's going to be like a fantasy stud in this Kansas City backfield for years and years. But I think for 1 year at least, I think it can work where he gets a lot of high value touches. He might get more involvement in the pass game than you might think. He was targeted on 18.
Yeah, because he's not a great pass catcher. He's caught, I think, like 30 passes every year of his career. So he does catch passes. He's just not particularly good at it.
I think the way he really burns, I think I'm not going to draft a lot of him. TBD. Right now, he's going at like the 2-3 turn in like the earliest of DraftKings drafts. I kind of think he probably pushes up to maybe almost the 1-2 turn, like pick 15. Probably won't have a lot of them there. I do think the way in which he burns me looks very much like James Cook, where like defenses have to, James Cook's really good, to be clear, but also James Cook gained so much by the threat of Josh Allen. Even when Josh Allen didn't have any good weapons to throw to, Josh Allen's legs, a well-designed running scheme, and Josh Allen's arm command so much on defense, so much from a defense, that James Cook gets a lot of opportunities to hit 50-yard runs, and he's good enough to take advantage of those opportunities. If Ken Walker hits a very similar setup and ends up having a top 5 fantasy season, I'm not drafting that way, but it could easily happen. I think this is the type of spot where those types of things happen.
To both your guys' points, I mean, we've spent several years now propping up like subpar Chiefs running backs solely because of the offense they were in, the projected roles they have. I know I joke a lot about Kenneth Walker. It's the best running back the Chiefs have had, seriously, since probably the first iteration of Kareem Hunt. And so, like, the way we rocket shipped guys who weren't even good, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with his ADP. He's going to be a very hotly debated player all season long. Same's going to be true for Travis Etienne in New Orleans. The Saints are essentially swapping out Alvin Kamara for a poor man's Kamara tight, Denny, and Travis Etienne. Am I wrong that my initial reaction to this was it was sort of a lateral move for both teams? Like, the Saints have been kind of middling through their backfield for, speaking of almost a half a decade at this point. Felt like they could have made a bigger splash. Etienne, I don't really see what's going to be different for him in the Saints offense from the Jaguars offense. I have seen some people, though, trying to make like almost like the Saquon Barkley case for Travis Etienne as a big-time player coming to play for Kellen Moore, who sparked an historic season for Saquon Barkley in 2025. We don't think that's happening. But what are realistic expectations for Travis Etienne? How much of the Saints' backfield pie will be his, assuming Alvin Kamara is gone?
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. I think a really good chunk of it will be Etienne's to have. I think what matters is, and this is not shocking to anyone who pays attention to how running backs score in fantasy, will he be very involved in the passing game? And I say that because the Saints are bad and the Jaguars were good. And the Jaguars were top 3 in offensive snaps in neutral game script, meaning when the game was within 1 score last year. Okay. That's lots of neutral and positive script that they had to work with. That's lots of opportunities to run the ball throughout the game, right? You're not chasing points. You're not abandoning the run. The Saints, on the other hand, bottom 2. They were the second worst in offensive snaps with neutral game script. Unless they improve drastically, they're just not going to be in a great position to establish it.
Well, they were improving drastically as the 2025 season.
They were getting better. I don't know if they're good.
Kyle, I would say a bigger concern for Etienne is that he's been typecast as not a goal line back. He had 11 touchdowns his second year in the NFL, but in 4 seasons, he scored more than 7 once. He scored 2 touchdowns in 15 games in 2024, 7 last year in that better offense, but he's not going to be option A at the goal line, I feel like. Or is he going to be option A with that money he's getting? How do you feel about his touchdown potential of the Saints? Which I really do think is the biggest concern. Denny, I don't know if you've heard, the Saints are going to be bandied about a lot as an NFC South dark horse this summer.
They'll be hardly even a dark horse. I think people just see what.
Yeah, Denny, the hype has already been building, by the way. I don't know where you've been.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, so.
I mean, the NFC South sucks, and they're fine.
There was a pretty widespread opinion that by the end of last season, the Saints were the best team in the division. They just got good too late in the year. And by best, we are damning a faint praise.
Yeah, I'm having trouble getting on board this, like, they're a good team.
Don't get me wrong. It'll go horribly. But what do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I do agree that I think the touchdown, the goal line equity is what will make or break a player like Travis Etienne. Because even if they do choose to throw him the football, he's not electric at that. He's not going to command the types of targets that Alvin.
He's not electric like at anything. He's solid at a lot of things.
I agree. I think he's just like solid at everything. But the amount of money they paid him and their other options, which are basically none at the goal line, they're going to give it to him at the goal line. Like, truly, what else?
I don't know. I mean, the Bears, did they ever give it to DeAndre Swift at the goal? It's similar to like the DeAndre Swift deal with the Bears, which span 2 different coaching staffs. It's kind of how I look at this deal.
Yeah, but like, would it be Kendre Miller? Like who? Like
Evan Hull?
Evan Hull.
Audric Estime supposedly on the roster.
Yeah, they picked him up in the middle.
I actually do think they're probably going to sign someone else, is what I do think.
I would think so.
Or draft someone.
I will say, as far as, sorry to interrupt you, but as far as like the Saints, how they operate near the goal line, no one had a lower pass rate over expected inside the 10-yard line last year.
Oh, that is very interesting.
On the other side of it, they only targeted the running back position on 14% of their attempts, which was bottom 5 in the league. Now, can that change? Yeah, it can.
They changed quarterbacks. Kamara was declining. There was no option B. It might have just been because there was no one good enough to throw the ball to.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but they played half the year with the worst backfield in the NFL. Essentially, once Kamara went down, they kept churning through nothing.
Kellen Moore did not target Saquon Barkley much in 2024.
No, he didn't. I don't buy this Barkley Etienne thing.
No. Let me be clear. I was not sanctioning that take at all.
I can't believe Pat said Etienne is better than Saquon Barkley.
I'm going to regret that one.
Pat, I do agree with you. He's just like, it's like a B- at a lot of things. He can do a lot of things at a starter.
Which kids, guess what? I know they claim B's are fine. I got news for you. They ain't. All right. And ain't's a real word. Put that on your English test.
Because when I was looking at the differences between him and Kamara, in terms of, this is more from the Saints perspective, like why did they want to go out and get him? I was like, I don't know. He averaged 0.17 rush yards over expected. That was like, I think 33rd in the NFL out of some 50-something qualified running backs. Getting more than expected by only a slight amount in a year in which rushing efficiency rose. On the other hand, Kamara, minus 0.73 for every expected yard he was being given. Like he was giving back like almost the full yard. He just really was, he was nearly the worst running back in that metric with yards after contact. Etienne, again, 3.1 is okay. It's fine. He handled a lot of work, and to be okay on a lot of work deserves some credit. The difference is that Kamara at 2.6 was, again, pushing toward bottom of the league. Etienne actually did do well in breakaway rate, 28%, not an elite number. It's like top 15, if I remember correctly. Kamara pushing towards the absolute bottom of the barrel at 14%, half of Etienne. I don't know about the pass catching stuff. I do think maybe even at this point in his career, Kamara still could be a better pass catcher than Etienne. But the rushing, Etienne is an okay rusher. I think he's probably even a good rusher. Kamara had nothing. left in the tank. And he's had nothing for 2 or 3 years on end. And I do think that's the upgrade that the Saints sought out when they went to get Etienne. The passing stuff wouldn't make sense for that to be an upgrade. Maybe they still think they can get a lot out of him as a pass catcher, but it's just going from what Kamara had left, which was nothing, to something in Etienne that really I do think will make a difference for the offense.
To put a bow on it, I just think with the Etienne, the story's not finished, that another back could be added. I was a little curious. They have not cut Kamara yet. I mean, he could end up staying there, which would be very bad. Then you become kind of a between the 20s superstar for Travis Etienne. He is likely gone. We'll likely talk about that in a future show. We have a lot more to talk about in this show when we come back right after this. Can Rory McIlroy make it back-to-back wins at the Players, or will Scotty Scheffler reign supreme for the third time in the last 4 tournaments at TPC Sawgrass? The answers to those questions and more are this weekend on NBC and Peacock.
Denny, Scotty down bad.
Denny already, I'm sure, grinding horrific lineups.
Oh, yeah. No, worse than ever.
Worse than ever. The Bucks were worse than ever down the stretch last year. They could not win a game. It drove Mike Evans to the point of insanity. You could basically pinpoint the moment on their sideline on Thursday Night Football when he decided to leave the only organization he's ever known, Denny Carter.
Yeah,
I'm going crazy, quote, literally losing to Kirk Cousins. So he left Tampa. Unthinkable. I thought he would finish his career there. Instead, he's in San Francisco. I feel like we underrated the need. I did, for how badly the 49ers needed another skill core option. Just because Pearsall always hurt. Kittle coming back from the Achilles. Brandon Ayuk, not really sure what's going on with that young man, other than he will not be playing football for the San Francisco 49ers next year. Can Mike Evans still be a wide receiver too in San Francisco? And why do I get the feeling you might have an even worse take than that? Why stop a wide receiver too, brother?
Oh, brother. Yeah, like I said in our video on demand, which you can check out on the site, I'll do you one better. I'll say wide receiver 1. Because there's going to be a lot of touchdowns going on here for Mike Evans, and that's what I care about. Juwan Jennings probably gone, like you said.
I didn't say that, but
you didn't?
No.
Well,
I don't even know who that is.
Ricky Pearsall is nobody. George Kittle. It'll be George Kittle and Mike Evans as the 2 main guys for Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy, I hate to say it for the Baker Mayfield heads out there, but it's a huge upgrade over Baker Mayfield.
He's a huge upgrade over one-armed Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
There's always the
Baker we saw last year.
That is the problem with Baker, Denny, is that he tends to be one-armed shockingly often.
Yes. So both Purdy and I wrote this up on the site. If folks want to check it out, I think it's still the main story on the fantasy part of things on Rotoworld. So Mayfield and Purdy last season had a downfield passing rate of around 11%. So it's similar in that respect. But in San Francisco, Evans could benefit, I think, from a better quality of deep ball. Purdy last year was the NFL's 2nd most accurate downfield passer, trailing only Sam Darnold, the elite Sam Darnold, while Mayfield was 35th out of 43 qualifying quarterbacks.
Mayfield collapsed.
He played like the 35th out of qualified quarterbacks number. It was rough. Man.
He was looking like a plumber out there.
And here's something that I guess I didn't really pay much attention to last year was that Kyle Shanahan sort of stopped cranking up the rushing machine last year. And what I mean by that is that he was kind of pass heavy. They were over their expected pass rate.
Kyle talked about CMC won leagues. It wasn't because he was an effective rusher.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Niners were over their expected pass rate in 13 of 17 games in the regular season. I think that's something to note. And it was way more pass heavy than the Tampa offense. So could have a little more volume, could have kind of equal number of air yards and better quality passing. I'm in on Evans. Now, hurts his hamstring week 2. It's over.
I was going to say the hamstring and the electrical substation. Quite the pairing here. Who stops this pairing?
Oh, I totally forgot.
I've already seen lots of people speculating about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Man.
Kyle, he has injured his hamstring a lot. Does that give you any pause? Not the substation. Does his hamstring give you any pause? He's going to be 33 years old. The hammy is not getting any more elastic. I'll put it that way. He's kind of Keenan Allen mode. He's gone Keenan Allen mode with the hammies. We need him to go Devontae Adams mode at the goal line.
Yeah, I think, like I said, or like Denny said, I do think this is a spot where I didn't really agree too much. Like, he could be a top 3 running back with Ken Walker. I can really see it with Mike Evans. Like, George Kittle's awesome. We'll go down as like maybe the pound for pound most talented tight end. This is what the end of a career often looks like, is one of the hardest injuries to come back from super duper late, like obviously into the playoffs. It could just cost him much of this season, and who knows what he looks like when he comes back. Juwan gone. Juwan probably
maybe gone. You guys are really
well.
I forgot him and Shanny had beef.
Yes,
that's wide receiver doesn't have beef with Shanny.
I know. That's what I was going on. Juwan is a free agent right now, and he could re-sign with the team, but as Pat pointed out, weird rocky relationship to end last summer. Then doesn't put his best foot forward in terms of what he just kept getting hurt and wasn't quite as effective when he was on the field. It seems like he's probably gone. Ricky Pearsall seems like at best he's going to top out as like an efficient deep threat, but we're still kind of waiting for the efficiency. It wasn't terrible last year, but 1.7 yards per route run is like fine. It's fine for your deep threat number 3 receiver. I don't know what he has beyond that. This could just be a lot of Mike Evans targets, a lot of Mike Evans goal line work, and an offense that just year in, year out is one of the most efficient in the NFL. So I do think this is a spot where I think we could get, Pat pointed out Devontae Adams is like a comp. I think we could get something similar to that. The touchdown totals won't be quite as gaudy because he won't quite literally lead the NFL in touchdowns despite missing a month of football. But the touchdown numbers will probably be there. The air yards will almost certainly be there. This is a really good spot.
Yeah. Every offseason, there's a few. Just hold your nose and draft them like old-timey veterans.
Right.
Is going to definitely be one of them. Where like fearless fantasy players, like I will draft one player over the age of 27. And then they will print a championship by doing so. Weirdly, one of the most telegraphed moves of the pre-free agency period, Denny, was Wan'Dale Robinson to the Tennessee Titans. This was like, we put in our headline, worst kept secret. It really, really was.
It really was.
Like somehow like the political press was like, yeah, Dale to the Titans. Everyone, so the Today Show, they were talking about it. Wan'Dale,
they led with it.
Yeah, what national suburb he was going to build a house in. TMZ is working on that one. By the way, it has come to pass. Wan'Dale Robinson's on the Titans. He's making almost $20 million each of the next 4 years. A lot of people, people forget that Wan'Dale was already like almost a wide receiver 1 with the Giants last year. Can he come? It was like wide receiver 13 by total PPR points and I believe 15 by average. Can he come anywhere close to replicating that in Tennessee, Denny Carter? Or is that not really in the cards? Are we going to be lucky to get top 24? What do you expect from Wan'Dale Robinson in his new home?
Some of the metrics suggest that our guy Wan'Dale ran hot last year as far as like converting air yards and touchdowns and things of that nature. So I'm a little hesitant to say, oh yeah, it's only going to get better from here. I think the good thing is if you want him in fantasy and best ball or whatever, I don't think he's going to be that sought after unless I'm just totally off base, Kyle, and some people are hungry for some Wan'Dale Robinson. But he could pretty easily, without any real competition, target competition in Tennessee, Wan'Dale could have that magic combo of you get some easy targets around the line of scrimmage, some intermediate stuff, and some downfield shots, right? So like easy button stuff and high value stuff downfield. You combine those, if you're reasonably efficient, you should be able to be a top 15 receiver. That's where I am with Wan'Dale Robinson.
Any counter take on Wan'Dale? I feel like there's no way he matches last year's finish. I do think Cam Ward quarterback progress has become so nonlinear in the NFL. I don't even know where I'm going. Like we only have one data point with Cam Ward, so nonlinear could mean anything coming this year. But basically, I don't just write off guys after one bad season anymore, Kyle. So the quarterback fit could be fine. Do you agree, disagree though with Mr. Denny on Wan'Dale?
Yeah, top 15 seems very aspirational for a player on probably the worst offense in the NFL last year. The Browns would have something to say about that, but they're certainly up there, especially among teams that got to start the same quarterback for pretty much the entire season and then will then run said quarterback back into 2026. I would just guess if you're projecting out team yard, like team total yards, team total touchdowns, you kind of have to put the Titans in a number that starts with 30, 31, 32. And I think that'll be tough for Wan'Dale to replicate or even come close to what he did last year. But I do think, like Denny said, there's a pretty good chance that he just runs laps around the rest of this teams in terms of target earning, the rest of the players on this team, in terms of earning targets. They really do have nothing. Like Calvin Ridley is somehow still, like, I don't think he's been cut. He just is this team's second best receiver.
That is crazy. Like, no one has mentioned Calvin Ridley's name for months and months.
Yeah.
So bad.
We pledged to never do so again on the show.
No.
We've had enough. We have had enough. Dale could be kind of similar to Mike Evans in that just people aren't going to want to draft him. Actually, some people might want to draft Mike Evans, but Denny Wan'Dale just strikes me as the classic. Like, no one is going to want to draft Wan'Dale Robinson. And he could end up a bargain that way because the drafting public has become so sophisticated. Like, all regression is like basically baked into ADPs at this point.
Yes.
And he just could be a guy where we over regress him in our projections. And
that's not a bad point. I mean, like I mentioned on last week's show, Wan'Dale over the final 6 weeks of last season saw a target on 30% of his routes. Like, that's super strong. Like that's a guy who catches my attention wherever he lands, even if it's in a horrible offense with the Titans. You know
who never saw a target on 30% of his routes, even though he was frequently his team's best wide receiver, was Romeo Doubs. A little surprise for you guys. You didn't know we were going to talk about this because you didn't know that it was going to happen because it did not happen. Romeo Doubs has signed with the New England Patriots. Kayshon Boutte down horrific. Matt Collins down even worse. The Pats needed a receiver splash, though. Mr. Denny Carter, does this count? 4 years, reportedly $70 million. I said that's wide receiver 1 money. It's not. That's wide receiver 2 money these days in the NFL. But is he going to be their wide receiver 1? Steph Diggs gone. Again, the holdovers, they're fine. They're good role players. They're not target commanders, though. How do we feel about Romeo Doubs, the Patriots? This is the first kind of fit of free agency where I kind of feel like, wow, this could be really cool. Like something we weren't thinking about heading into free agency where maybe a player could be upgrading, or is this Romeo Doubs a hard capped player? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to just make it short, but yeah, he's hard capped. This is going to be, I think his prospects in the New England offense won't be much different than it was in the Green Bay offense because the targets are spread around. Like Drake May really spread targets around to his receivers.
No one good to throw to though.
Now, I mean, we're talking about this in mid-March. Who knows if AJ Brown lands there, then we're talking about Doubs as like a distant wide receiver too.
Precludes that.
You think so?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Yeah, it might, and that's unfortunate.
You think this takes them out of the AJ Brown race?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it could, and that would suck because AJ Brown to New England is a really good fit.
It needed to happen. It really needed to happen. I'm very devastated that it has no chance of happening now.
And yeah, right. You're not trying to reverse jinx it at all. Yeah. I am not excited about this at all.
Wow.
I think Doubs is like the most mid player of all time, and I mean, Kayshon Boutte will probably be better than Romeo Doubs next year.
What do you think, Kyle?
I'm sadly kind of with Denny. Maybe I just like my expectations are AJ Brown, man. It's AJ Brown or bust. Get this guy a fun football player. And Doubs is just like the consummate wide receiver 3, like the perfect guy to be an occasional layup option, like do the dirty work. They trust, like Green Bay did trust him for a lot of stuff. Like they trust him on third downs. They trusted him in the red zone. He's the guy they just ran the most routes.
They trusted him to be happy when they didn't target him, even though he wasn't at all.
He betrayed that trust almost instantly. So I don't know. I just agree with Denny. Like he's never been a player who's super efficient. He's going to get plenty of routes. Maybe that's the one thing he can do on New England is I believe them and there's a second team I'm forgetting. We're tied for last in the NFL in route. Oh, I think it was the Bills. We're tied for last in the NFL at route rate among the wide receiver 1. They had like the most dispersed routes among all their wide receivers of any team. Doubs was the opposite. He was the routes consolidator in Green Bay. And I do think by that, he could probably just go out there, run 80% of the routes, maybe beyond 80% of the routes, and rack up a bunch of, or at least some high value targets because the quarterback is extremely efficient. I don't know. He's kind of just a guy.
The Packers thought he was just a guy. $70 million suggests he's at least the next Christian Kirk. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, I agree with that framing.
I would not be stunned if Doubs were a guy, almost like a tight end, where like his initial team just didn't respect him enough, and there actually was more there than met the eye because he's been a spiked weak player.
I can see they respected him big time though, in that like they chose to just never play Matthew Golden over him. They didn't let Jaden Reed, who was the most efficient player on the team, play in 3 receiver sets because they trusted Doubs so much. So like they really gave him a shot to be very good. He just was never efficient, and they let him be on the field all the time.
I could see him being very underrespected, Denny. Final answer, are you going to be drafting Romeo Doubs this spring?
No, boring. No.
I will be drafting him, I think, since I'm already feeling my contrarian impulses kicking in.
Yeah, I know. You're getting more bullish as we talk.
I know. Do you have time for one more, or do you have to quote
Sure.
your kids? All right. One more is what Michael Pittman. No, he didn't want to return to Indianapolis at all. He wanted to leave, it seemed like. He's now the number 2 receiver for what I put as a lifeless Steelers offense. Does Michael Pittman Jr. still have further to fall in fantasy football? He barely cracked the top 36 last year. He's been in the middle of a 2-year slump. I think one of those years he was playing through a broken back.
Yeah.
But we don't know whose quarterback's even going to be. Is Michael Pittman just a guy fading from fantasy relevance, Denny?
Yes. I think this is more like a culture signing. The beat writers for the Colts basically said, oh man, like Pittman's going to really fit in with the Steelers because he's a blocker and he's nasty and he'll do the dirty work. And
once they start praising your character in the NFL, it's game over, man.
I mean, but that's always been Pittman's thing. He's never actually been all that good or efficient. He's going to, Mike DeFabo of The Athletic suggested that Pittman would be a really good fit for Aaron Rodgers if Rodgers returns for another year in Pittsburgh.
Only guy on target, quite clearly.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
He's going to be the only guy Rodgers targets like all year.
Oh! I see what you're saying. Oh yeah, because they see precise route runner and has that
every route's 7 yards down the field.
Yeah. So hey, it won't be pretty. Here's what I promise you: it will not be pretty. Could he be like weirdly interesting for PPR? Yes, I could see that happening if Rodgers is back and it's just 3 steps and throw, that sort of thing.
What I do think, Kyle, is that would have been a lot better Steelers offense last year if they had Michael Pittman Jr., where they had truly no number 2 receiver. They at least now have a number 2 receiver as a concept. But yeah, it just seems like the returns will continue to diminish for Michael Pittman Jr. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, to Danny's point, he's never been a player who's super efficient. He's good at consolidating volume, but he's not going to do a ton with it. He's Zach Ertzian in that way. And these guys who are safety blankets for their quarterbacks, but are not game changers. I will note, again, he was not awfully efficient when he had Daniel Jones under center, but he was doing really good fantasy numbers. He was on pace for, I think, like 90 catches, 900 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He was on pace. He had like 7 or 8 through Daniel Jones's first, his only 13 or 14 games. And then Daniel Jones gets hurt, and all the fantasy points, all of them, absolutely disappear. Had Jones just finished out the season, we're probably talking about Michael Pittman reasonably more favorably. He still wasn't on pace for any kind of crazy season, but he was certainly on pace like crap to crack the top 36. That at least would have been well within his reach. So there are worlds in which we are more excited about him, but like only by a marginal amount. He still would have been Michael Pittman.
Regardless of fantasy, this is a move that needed to be made by the Pittsburgh Steelers. You cannot have only one wide receiver, especially when it's like a field stretching type like DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
It was just a hopelessly undermanned receiver core. Regardless of fantasy football, regardless of who's a quarterback, they needed another wideout, even if he's kind of an overpaid number 2 wideout, Michael Pittman Jr. So from that perspective, kind of a no-brainer move for the Steelers. I think an opportunity that kind of fell into their lap. I think it was just a pick swap, right? Just an opportunity that
it was. Yeah, it was a salary dump.
Yeah, just had to get someone else who could catch passes. So I like the move from that regard. Don't love it from fantasy football. I wish he could have gone somewhere with a more viable PPR scammer. I wish Denny Carter could have stayed around for the rest of the show. He had to bounce. Kyle and I will be right back for more after this. The Warriors await Steph Curry's return as they travel east to face Jalen Brunson and the Knicks on Sunday evening. Coverage of the matchup begins at 7 p.m. Eastern only on NBC and Peacock. Man, our NBA production is so good. I've finally been getting to watch a lot since the football season ended and since my child was born. A lot of sitting on the couch. And, man, we are killing it with our NBC production. I will be watching on Sunday night. I will be watching Malik Willis with the Miami Dolphins, Kyle Dvorchak. I don't know what I will be watching. Will it be a disaster? Will it maybe be surprisingly fruitful? If this one, kind of like Wan'Dale Robinson, the Titans, was telegraphed, I didn't know if the Miami Dolphins can end up affording this move. They ended up doing some cap sorcery. They get a 3-year, I think $67 million deal with Malik Willis. The connection was there all along because they're trying to build Packers South. They're doing that without a Packers South play caller, though.
Yeah.
Bobby Slowick, not from the Green Bay Packers coaching tree. from his ill-fated Houston Texans tenure. So kind of a weird fit from that regard. But can this actually work? Malik, we know already what the plan is going to be. Maybe they, in their ideal world, they might want to be number 32 in pass attempts. But can he be a QB1 because of the rushing? This is the archetype of quarterback who time and again, even now, tends to get undervalued in fantasy football. Or is the offense just not good enough? Will the passing just not be there? What are reasonable expectations from Malik Willis in Miami, a guy who I know is going to be hotly debated in best ball drafts all spring?
To me, actually, I kind of thought of him as the new wave of like fantasy darling Russian quarterback in that, like, you know what? I don't care if Trey Lance has thrown 25 career passes.
I know,
like,
yeah.
I'm taking him in the 8th round. Like Justin Fields, like the Jets are a stable organization. They would never pull the plug.
To your point, I just feel like we found the limit of how far can you take a dual threat quarterback who doesn't throw.
Yeah, I mean, look, all credit to him. Once he joined the Packers, at least on the very limited number of throws, both on like an individual game to game, how much they would let him throw, just the overall body of work. He started 3 games. We don't have a big sample on him. He was like, by most accounts, like the most efficient quarterback in the NFL over the past 2 years, with the caveat that we've talked about this with guys like Sam Darnold, guys like, peak Ryan Tannehill, that the lack of volume is to make sure that the throws that he does take are very advantageous spots.
They kind of trick the computers, like not even a bit. They do kind of trick the computers a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a spot where you're almost certainly, and I know like Karain has talked about this, where in some sense, you might just want to not take EPA per play, just take total EPA generated in a game, because Mahomes deserves credit for the Chiefs knowing that he can throw 50 times a game, even if his 50 throws aren't as efficient as Sam Darnold's 23 throws. Like, he deserves credit for the team knowing that. So
it's actually an extremely good point, and maybe an adjustment we should make when it comes.
Yeah. I mean, Karain, like, he's kind of hounded me for this a little bit. Is like, that's an adjustment he has already gone to make in some of this stuff. And obviously, like, it's very intuitive seeing the way the NFL is moving. There are some of these guys that their volume is indicative of their talent, or at least their shortcomings. It's very impressive that any quarterback, regardless of how few throws they take in a game, can be the most efficient over the past years. I think by both EPA and completion percent over expected. That is Malik Willis. My big concern here is that as frustrating as Matt LaFleur has been for pretty much the entire time in Green Bay, he really did do a great job at turning around a quarterback in Malik Willis who could not even make it to anything close to the end of his rookie contract in Tennessee. I remember in preseason games, he was getting like pulled from preseason games because he kept wanting to flee the pocket and run. And his coaches were telling him, like, this is not the time to do that. We need to get you passing the football. He refused to do that. He was not a 53-man roster viable quarterback. And then on a limited sample, became the most efficient in the NFL. That doesn't just happen by a change in coaching talent or coaching, acumen, whatever you want to call it. He made strides as a player too. But all of that coaching stuff, as you said, for all of the Green Bay Southing that is going on in Miami, none of it is happening on offense. They retained Bobby Slowick. They didn't plunder. I don't think like any of the notable Green Bay staffers over the past few years. The pass game coordinator is Kevin Patullo, who just got ran out of town in Philadelphia. It's very strange to me that clearly they're trying to export a lot of the Green Bay stuff. None of that is happening on offense. I'm concerned that the true Malik Willis is closer to what we saw in Tennessee. Even if you just split the difference between Green Bay and Tennessee, that's a very shaky setup. So he strikes me as someone who we're looking back at the end of the year and like, how did we miss this? And it's because like some guys find themselves in the right situations and they work really well there. And in what I think is almost certainly going to be a not good situation in Miami, one that does not set him up for success entirely, he might just not have it in that situation.
And I know people out there know that he didn't start that many games through the first 4 years. He's made 6 starts. I think most people would probably assumed he had made at least 10 starts over those 4 years. He's made 6 starts. So the sample size is just shockingly limited. It was good the past year. So what's the first step to like being a good starter? It's being a good backup. He was a very good backup. It just, like you said, we need to now suss out was totally context dependent. Can any of this translate to outside of that Packers context? And we just do not know. It has a Justin Fields outcome just kind of like screaming out to happen. Like a player is miscast as a starter, getting put with a bad coaching staff, or at least a bad situation. There's severe downside. The upside, of course, though, is he rushes for 12 touchdowns. He throws a little more than expected. Just real quick, for drafting purposes, right now, would you rather have Malik Willis or Bo Nix?
Probably Bo Nix.
Malik Willis or Fernando Mendoza?
That one's closer. I think I'll go with Willis. In his 3 starts, he had roundabout 40, 60, and 70 yards in Green Bay rushing in particular. I do think he qualifies as the perfect mono threat. You know, the guy we talked about dual threat quarterbacks, and at some point you have to actually throw the football. He's more of a mono threat, but the rushing threat is legitimate. I'll take him over Mendoza.
Malik Willis or Sam Darnold? I guess this one's easy.
Darnold. Yeah, Darnold.
Malik Willis, I don't know, Baker Mayfield.
Baker last year was awful, but I don't think that's the true Baker. Baker, you know, if you look at the average number of arms he has in a season, it's not always 2. It's shockingly, it's not 2 nearly as often as you think. I think it'll be 2 this year.
I think does QB 21 off the top of your head sound right from Malik Willis? Or is that a little too low, maybe?
I think it might be a smidge low, but I'd be perfectly fine with it. I won't push back on that too hard.
Yeah, QB 21 is what I'm establishing him as. We'll see how the debate goes as the offseason rolls along. We know how the debate goes for Tua Tagovailoa in Atlanta. No one's going to like this. We don't even know. No one's going to like it, too, because it's such an unsettled situation. So you think Tua ending up in Atlanta is basically just guaranteeing Michael Penix is not ready for week 1? Because we knew they were going to bring in like a veteran caddy, a veteran, what's another word for it? Just like a veteran partner for Michael Penix. This one is more kind of on the side of like Penix has no shot at being ready for week 1. Is that how you read it? How bad a news is this for Michael Penix? How bad a news is this maybe for Drake London, Kyle Pitts, who never had like great chemistry with Michael Penix? He did produce some fantasy points for them, though.
I don't know that this entirely guarantees that Michael Penix isn't ready for week 1. I mean, the Dolphins, like there were rumors early in the offseason, like, oh, what could they get for trading him? Like, delete the contract, but is he worth something via trade? And like almost instantly the league resoundingly said, like, nope, he is not worth much at all. And he was never in contention for any of the really, you know, glamorous or even just the 17-week starter jobs like Minnesota and New York Jets. So to me, he was very clearly being priced by NFL teams as a good backup. I think it would make sense for a team like the Falcons to both spend on a good backup and then hope that that player doesn't play. I do think it's probably more likely than not that Tua is the week 1 starter, but I don't think this guarantees it by any means. And he's not the worst backup, right? There are going to be worse backups who make starts this year. So from that perspective, if you just knew that more likely than not, you're getting some backup starts, if you're drafting Drake London, for instance, like you're probably going to have to suffer through, call it 2 or 3 weeks of a backup quarterback. Like they could have done worse, right? I think Gardner Minshew is a worse backup quarterback. He just signed with the Cardinals. It's a worse backup quarterback than Tua. So it doesn't feel like the worst possible outcome for almost anyone involved.
No, and he's making the veteran minimum. I guess I should point out.
I believe he's another offset guy where
he's collecting so much money from the Miami Dolphins that he was always just going to sign for the veteran minimum. If he plays, does he clear the Kirk Cousins line? I kind of feel like he doesn't. El Kirko, he was not efficient last year, but he was more productive. And they were winning games with Kirk Cousins last year. Would you say he's a better or worse option than Kirk Cousins was last year, Tua Tagovailoa? I'm feeling worse. I kind of just feel like it's over for Tua, to be honest. Like to collapse to that degree with Mike McDaniel. Like, do we really think? First, I'm starting to think Kevin Stefanski's a fraud. By the way,
well, we've known.
I just don't. Do you think he's better than Kirk Cousins was last year for the Falcons?
Oh, I was gonna say like, yeah, I think he is, and then you were like, he collapsed really bad. And I mean, I believe Mike McDaniel is a really good offensive coordinator, head coach too to some degree, and he was dreadful in that situation. Kirk might be better. I think Kirk might be better.
I think Kirk was just a little live. Kirk, maybe Tua can make more of the throws. Kirk, maybe Tua is a better thrower at this point.
Probably.
Kirk is a better quarterback still. Like
I think you've sold me.
Yeah, Kirk can still run an offense. He's physically diminished. He can still run an offense. Like we saw that he was just the class that I can sit back and read a defense. Actually, last year, Tua, that was kind of always the problem. He had no adjustment to the defense's adjustments. So I do think he's a downgrade from Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's a significant downgrade though for fantasy. Like if Drake London, Kyle Pitts have to spend a few games catching passes from him, it'll be whatever. And maybe Tua just gets even if it's a coaching downgrade, which a lot of people probably think it's not a severe coaching downgrade. He just gets a little boost from talk about a change of scenery guy. Like he needed the scenery to change. It had gotten toxic in Miami there. I'll tell you, really needed the scenery to change was Geno Smith. Speaking of about as toxic of a year as you'll ever see, Geno and the Las Vegas Raiders last year. Not sure if that scenery needed to be a return to the New York Jets, where very ill-fated first 10 year with the Jets, maybe the most toxic franchise in all of football. The media will be quite difficult on him. Is he going to be the starter? Let's just start there for the New York Jets. Or is he guaranteed to be paired with a rookie? What do you even make of the Jets? Another move that was telegraphed that clearly wanted Geno Smith really badly. They now have him. What in the world should we make of Geno Smith returning to Florham Park and the New Jersey Jets?
Oh, man, I don't know. We talked about the Jets being like one of the more obvious hot seat coaches in that, like, I don't think their coach makes it through the end of the season. I mean, we were talking about how we didn't think Glenn would make it through the end of the season last year, given how poorly things were going. He ultimately does, but this seems like a project that is so insanely set up for failure. If you had to take, like, I don't know if DraftKings has this up, but like first coach fired odds, which they will have up at some point, you're going to get a very short number on Aaron Glenn because you look at what he did with his staff. He gutted them all, and the best he could do on offense for offensive coordinator was Frank Reich. I don't know, man. This seems really not.
I just don't know what purpose is this serving. Like,
I think Geno is the team's best option who would choose them to win 9 games. In that, like, Kyler Murray's probably not choosing the Jets.
No,
is Geno better than Tua? I think it's like reasonable. Geno 2 or 3 years ago was really efficient in Seattle. Is he better than Tua now? I'm not sure. I think you could certainly make the argument that he is. Don't care too much either way to make that argument. Beyond that, it was like Malik Willis would have been the other guy, and I'm almost sure they at least put in an offer for Malik Willis. So it does seem like they're just trying to bide their time and hold on to their jobs, and the floor is maybe higher than a rookie. But Geno played terrible last year. He was absolutely awful.
Maybe honestly, pound for pound, the worst quarterback in the NFL. Is he better than Joe Flacco? Like, if all they're trying to do is hold serve and get to the next draft, get to the next offseason, I feel that's where I feel like the move doesn't even make sense. He's not even like a good placeholder option. Like, the vibes don't improve. The results don't really improve. I just don't see – I mean, other than, like, trying to right a Jets wrong, like, clearly they gave up on him too quickly. And, like, I don't really see what purpose it serves other than that, man. It seems like it's a typically flailing Jets move. Doesn't really move the needle one way or another for Garrett Wilson, I guess. Like, he won't be the worst quarterback Garrett Wilson has caught passes from. Is he even better than Justin Fields and the Tyrod Taylor tandem from last year? Can we really safely say that at this? Maybe the Raiders offense was so antiquated that Geno cannot be properly assessed from 2025. That would be the bowl case, I guess. Like, dude, like, you don't even understand how bad things were in Vegas. But when that's like the bowl case, that in and of itself is a red flag.
I agree it's a very weak bowl case. I think it's one that it's possible, right? That we saw 2 years ago, it wasn't peak Geno in Seattle in his final season. I mean, it's part of the reason they moved on from him. But he was still a solid quarterback. And in previous seasons, he really was a pretty reasonably efficient quarterback in Seattle. And then, as soon as he gets a new situation in which everyone gets fired instantly, he looks really bad. Maybe you can make the argument that Seattle Geno just is who Geno is. Last year was a blip on the radar, but it was the brightest red flag you'll ever find because he was notably less efficient in EPA per play than both Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. I think maybe for Garrett Wilson's perspective, having a quarterback who's not going to take off and run on so many of his dropbacks or take sacks on so many of his dropbacks as guys like Fields and Taylor, that is an improvement. Just overall team passing volume and let Garrett Wilson consolidate, that works. But beyond that, I think that's the bull case for Garrett Wilson is just like more empty calories volume. And the bull case for Geno Smith is that maybe he's still solid. And it's just so unappealing for everyone.
We got so many players left that we haven't been able to get to. We're going to kick most of them to Thursday. We're going to talk about Denny's guy, Tyler Algier. We'll talk about Kenneth Gainwell. We'll talk about my guy, Isaiah Likely, Rashid Shaheed, J.K. Dobbins, Isaiah Pacheco, Jalen Naylor. A lot of people who have not signed yet. But I want to end today's show, Kyle, talking about, I think, all of our guy, Rico Dowdle. I think we 3 for 3 thought he was an underrated free agent last year. Mm-hmm. Should have gotten an opportunity to lead a backfield. That was borne out when he essentially took over the Panthers' backfield. That takeover still did not earn him an unquestioned starting job. I feel like it has earned him a better situation in Pittsburgh, though. He's going to be paired with Jaylen Warren. My take on this is that even though it's a new coaching staff, NFL coaches seem to have typecast Jaylen Warren as a 1B change of pace back. They don't want him as the lead runner. It stands to reason that Mike McCarthy, who was Rico Dowdle's coach for a successful 2024 Cowboy season for Dowdle, that is, not successful, for Mike McCarthy, told the front office, like, yeah, I like Rico as my early down running back. Do you think, even though knowing it's going to be a committee, I feel pretty comfortable saying Rico Dowdle is going to be the strong side of the Steelers committee. Do you agree? And then what does that actually amount to in fantasy football? Can that be a top 24 recipe for Rico Dowdle, or is that just not enough on a team where we do not have big 2026 offensive expectations?
Yeah, I'm maybe a little less confident that Jaylen Warren isn't like the 1A, truly, because both of these guys, I think both of these guys fit the perfect archetype. Like, I actually think they could be a number 1 back. Maybe not the best number 1 back in the NFL, but a good, like, 2 or 3 year number 1 back until a team hits on a second round rookie, something like that. And Jaylen Warren, I think he cleared 250 touches last year and did it with reasonable efficiency. Not great efficiency. He didn't look like the Jaylen Warren that was getting 150 touches and was one of the most efficient backs in the NFL. That is just what happens when you get older and get more touches at the same time. That's kind of what Rico Dowdle is as well. NFL teams don't really seem to think he deserves 250 carries and 40 catches. And then he stumbles into that anyway and kind of looks pretty good when he does it. They both have that similar role. To me, this is one where I really hope we get, and maybe these will just be meaningless sweet nothings, but tell us who's going to catch the passes here if Aaron Rodgers comes back, because that role for Kenneth Gainwell over the second half of the season, like I think from, it was like, I don't know, week 10, 11, 12 onward, somewhere in that range, he was just the team's wide receiver 1. He just straight up led the team in targets at some point, got over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, largely on the back of 1 or 2 spot starts, and then just insane receiving volume. My slight lean is that ends up being Jaylen Warren, like widely known.
I think it's going to be Warren for sure. And that Warren is very proven in that role. Rico is more proven as an early down runner than I think anyone remembers. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, over 4.5 yards per carry in 2 pretty different setups. Mm-hmm. Yards per carry, of course, one of the sillier stats to cite. But 2 different setups, still pretty efficient just by boomer metrics, reasonably efficient by the advanced metrics too. I just think it makes too much sense for him to be the early down back and for Jaylen Warren to be the third down change of pace. But maybe to the point you were making, the third down change of pace could just be the more valuable fantasy back here. And so, like, in a vacuum, who would you rather have on your fantasy? Like, you're starting to build your best ball portfolio. Do you want to have more Jaylen Warren? Do you want to have more Rico Dowdle?
I think I'd go more Jaylen Warren. I actually think I'll probably just end up liking both of these guys, though, because I think they're both good. They're both capable of handling a lot of work. And even Rico is a pretty solid pass catcher as well. So you probably get like reasonable baseline value from both. The Steelers if they bring Aaron Rodgers back, which I think is somehow the most likely outcome at this point.
I don't know. Very likely, very weird as usual.
But they're like just good enough to keep the chains moving and give the running backs a decent amount of work. Both of them will be viable, probably boring, but viable fantasy options. And if either one gets hurt, the other one probably just smashes. So I'll say Warren for this answer, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's just a backfield where I think there's a lot of value in general.
As good as Kenneth Gainwell was, I would say the Steelers have gotten a lot better this week. Just that Kenneth Gainwell is good. I think Warren and Rico is a little bit better pairing. Just that it makes more sense just from a committee standpoint. This guy's more clearly an early down back. This guy's more clearly a third down change of pace back. And as we mentioned earlier, the Steelers actually have a number 2 wide receiver now. I don't know if I've ever seen a team that had less of a number 2 receiver. They just did not have a number 2 receiver in 2025. Pretty crazy stuff from the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I wish it could be anyone other than Aaron Rodgers. I don't even mean that as like a value judgment. Just I don't think he's good enough to really be starting him. In terms of throwing, yes. In terms of doing everything a quarterback needs to do, I just don't think he can move well enough to start in the NFL. So that really caps the upside for this team. But anyway, this show's over. So many big names, like I said, we still have to get to on Thursday. More big names yet to sign. Yet another crazy free agency week. Check out Denny Carter's running blog on it on Rotoworld.com, reacting to all the latest signings. Zach Kruger, I think, helping him out. And just check out the blurb page. We are writing up quite literally every move. It's been hopping 48 hours straight. Monday was an even bigger day than Tuesday. It's getting more and more condensed every year, Kyle. But we're writing it all up on the website. So for Denny, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again later this week.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.